Namaste, everyone. Welcome to Sunday Night Alive. This is actually a Sunday Night Alive recording, since I am currently in South Africa and our time difference is not possible for me to do it live. So nonetheless, please say hello on the comments in the chat to let me know that you're here and to create a little spiritual community with one another as well. So if you're just joining me, my name is Reverend Denise Schubert. I am a New Thought minister. I am currently traveling in South Africa and happy to be bringing you this wonderful topic of green lights, cosmic clunks, and full body yeses. So I'm the director of the organization, Spiritual Life of Power. The vision and the intention behind the work is to simply awaken each and every one of us into a greater experience of our divinity, a greater experience of our power, poise, and confidence. Really knowing that as we do this, our lives will be more fulfilling. Even equally as important that the more of us that do this, the better the world will become. I, for one, have just had it up to here with all the craziness and the violence and the insanity, and that so for the rest of my days, I will, as much as possible, join with you in entering into a new level of consciousness for so many reasons. So let's take a moment and let me bless our time together. Blessing something is to simply call it sacred. That what I know is that we come together in the name and the nature of love, and that as we explore higher consciousness, as we explore awakening, that we raise the entire planet, and that our coming together makes a difference in our personal lives and in the global atmosphere. And so I'm grateful in advance for all the blessings and good that comes from it. And so it is. Amen. So intuition, cosmic clunks, full body yes are all the same thing. They're all about living your life from the inside out rather than from the world. The greatest secret in life is that it is possible to transcend the pain, the worry, the doubt, the fear that seems to be the way most human beings live. It is possible. Nature, I'm here in Africa, and here everything is as it should be. Everything is being what it should be. Lions are lions, elephants are elephants. Sometimes an antelope gets eaten for dinner. Sometimes babies are born. Sometimes babies die. But it is exactly as it should be. Nature is designed for your life and my life to go according to our soul's intention. It is possible to live in the flow of your existence, which means that everything works together for your greater good. Life can and will bring us what we need to experience meaning, purpose, and value, as well as happiness, fulfillment, and joy. We simply just need to make it welcomed. Some may say that I'm a Pollyanna. I would say, you bet I am. So last time we met, I touched on intuition through our conversations on developing the capacity to listen to ourselves rather than listening to the world. Why? Because the world doesn't really have much of value to say to us versus our insides, which has everything of value to say to us. We explored how to recognize intuition and what to do with it when it appears. In a nutshell, Ernest Holmes was the founder of the Science of Mind, which is my philosophy, faith, and way of life. And he said, intuition is God in man. For those of us who are queasy about God, you can think about your intuition as being the higher power of you, the presence of the divine in you, the sacredness that is you. Abraham Hicks put down a very wonderful idea, which is that the higher power of you is you, a non-physical you that is eternal, that adores you, that knows your entire eternal journey, and that is connected to you through a golden thread. And that how the purpose of this connection is to, through our emotions, to give us signals of when we're on the right path or the right track. So intuition shows up for us as guidance, as knowledge, as clarity. And in addition to knowing that you know with clarity and certainty, it also gives you this extrasensory guidance that it shows up in your gut. Does it feel good? Does it feel bad? Does it feel right? Does it feel whole? The higher power of us communicates to us through our emotions. Now, this is a very interesting perspective because many would say that our emotions are based on circumstances and not at all holy or sacred. This idea says just the opposite, that when something feels good, it's good. When something feels bad, it's bad. And that if we would learn to harness this GPS system inside of us, that we would live lives more in alignment with our higher purpose. What I call this for me is a cosmic clunk. So when I have this intuitive hit that something is right for me, it is a cosmic clunk. And I wait for it because it is indisputably right. I have come to trust it implicitly. Now, by the way, it doesn't always mean that you like it or want it, right? This cosmic clunk could say, take this job, but you really want the other job. Or it could say, go live in this town, but you really want to go live in this town. But the problem is, as you'll see, is that when you don't listen, it's going to keep coming back. You will keep being guided to follow it. So, but at any rate, all of this leads me to my topic today, which was inspired by a book that I surprisingly adored, which was Greeen Lights by Matthew McConaughey. And it is a bodacious book about living a full, big, authentic life, for good or for worse, but true, authentic, and right, which of course is right up my alley. So it's called Greeen Lights. Now, I want to, before I dive too deeply, just let you know that I'm not a person. I am a person who somehow didn't really learn any of this till I was around 45. So I didn't always listen to the still small voice inside of me. Most of my life was lived as kind of a tumbleweed by being blown around by desert winds. I'm not sure I ever made a conscious, willful, intentional decision or choice prior to the age of 45. I am pretty sure I married my first husband and all subsequent husbands with just because they asked. I don't even think I ever even thought about was it a good move on my part. Now, I'm being a little silly, but it is suffice to say that most of us, I'm not alone in this, we are all connected and we're pretty much all the same, that I don't know that I executed my life by design, with intention, with attention or vision. It never occurred to me to really go deeper. Now, somewhere along the way, I got kissed by grace. Somewhere along the way, there was a moment when I don't know quite sure I would describe it other than awakening or transformation, or the fog was lifted, or I can see clearly now, that all of a sudden life changed. And I couldn't have possibly made that happen because I didn't even know what it was. How do you invite in a different way of living when you don't know what a different way of living is? What I do know is I probably made that moment welcomed because I was in misery. I was full of sorrow and regret. I was deeply unhappy, and I had a fervent quest and desire for purpose and meaning in my life. And I've said this sometimes, I've said it in a way that I wasn't a big believer in God then either, but I remember just saying, please, please give me something useful to do. So being kissed by grace. So if you haven't already been kissed by grace, you will be. You just make it your intention. Anyway, all of this brings me to sharing with you this whimsical yet very mystical idea of green lights, red lights, and yellow lights. The green light, my interpretation of what Matthew McConaughey was talking about, the green light is your intuition, is my intuition. Or a term, as I said earlier, that I like to use for myself is a cosmic clunk. It is when everything lines up so that you have a full body yes. A full body yes means your head, your thoughts, your mind, your heart, your emotions, full body yes. Nothing in you that is resisting, but really more than just lack of resistance. It's a full body yes, you should definitely do it. It calls for a kind of obedience because this kind of knowing, this kind of gut feeling is not of the ego, it's of the soul. And even if you don't know anything about the soul or the ego or all of that, what you can know is that it will just feel right on every single level. Green lights are something you're looking for all the time. It's not a one-shot deal. So when on any given day, when you get a green light to accept a job, to go on a date, to eat a certain kind of food, to go to a certain kind of place, to go back to school, to write a book, whatever it is, wherever you get that full body, it means push the accelerator and go. Do not talk or ask your mother's advice, your sister's advice, your friend's advice, or even your guru's advice. A green light, full body yes, cosmic clunk is as good as it can get. Go for it. Red lights, on the other hand, are a full body no. They are moments when your gut is telling you that something is off, that it's not a good idea, that you should be reconsidering, that you should put on the brakes. I think red lights create a great deal of conflict within us because our ego and our spirit, our ego and our soul are in disagreement many times. Sometimes that party or that great paying job or that good catch of a husband simply has us override the intuitive hits we are given. Now, Matthew McConaughey has a wonderful quote because what I want to interject here is that, here's his quote, all destruction eventually leads to construction, all death eventually leads to birth, all pain eventually leads to pleasure in this life, in the next. What goes down will come up. It's a matter of how we see the challenge in front of us and how we engage with it, persist, pivot, or concede. Now, what I like about this idea is that it doesn't really matter if you ignore green lights and go for red lights. It doesn't. Ultimately, in the end, everything will work together for your greater good. Ultimately, you cannot make a mistake when you are approaching life from a spiritual perspective because what I know about God is that there isn't any mess that we as human beings can make that love cannot be brought to the table to make it right. And in fact, it's one of the joys of your spiritual awakening is to know that and to be kissed by grace when you need to be kissed by grace. So red lights, full body no cosmic clunk. Yellow lights, of course, are the moments in life where we just don't know what to do. We don't know which way to turn. We don't know what road to take. We don't even know how to decide. One of my most beloved teachers was Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith, who once said 30 years ago to me, which I've never forgotten, is a very simple rule in life, which I have followed diligently. And it is, if it's a full body yes, it's a yes. If it's a full body no, it's a no. If it's a maybe, it's a no. So full body yeses, go for it. Everything else, wait. So question might be, how can you bring this into practice? How do you actually live this way? Because it's not really, now that you know, it's all in your gut. Now that you know, it's all in your feelings. Now that you know, you're getting really good advice from a really great source, which is the divine of you. It's not as hard as you might think. Number one is you must pay attention more to the inside of you than to the world. We've already talked about that. It's like there's nothing in the world that you want, truly. You cannot get anything you want from the world. We all know this. Happiness, joy, fulfillment, purpose, peace of mind, if you get them from the world, they're circumstantial. So you change the circumstances and you're back to being unhappy, right? They're based on something happening. They're conditional. So on the contrary, joy lives inside of you. It's part of your DNA. Peace is part of your DNA. It is unconditional. It is not circumstantial. It is something you find, you cultivate, you experience it, and you express it into the world. So you give peace rather than get peace. So rule number one, it's not really a rule, but point number one, how you live this way is you embody that truth and you begin to live from the inside out. The second is really, you need to tune into your gut. You need to shift the way you relate to your feelings. You need to figure out, how does it feel when it responds to a full body yes? How does it feel when you're getting a full body no? You have to want to be real more than you want to be liked or approved of. Meister Eckhart, a mystic, said, if you want to know God, if you want happiness, you must want to know God more than anything else. I think this translates into the moment when you are in misery, maybe a little harsh word, but when you're unhappy, when you are really seeking a sign or a reason to keep going, where you realize you've had enough of what the world can give you, enough food, enough sex, enough rock and roll, enough alcohol, enough drugs, enough money, enough fame, and you're looking for something to give your life meaning and purpose. Now, I'm being a little bit dramatic, but you get my point. So then the question, another very interesting nuance, has to do with what I call divine discontent. So what if you're like living your green lights, right? Life is good, you're happy, you have a good relationship, your health is good, you have money, like life is good, and all of a sudden one day something creeps in, like a little discontent or a little dissatisfaction. Is this a bad thing or a good thing? Well, I would say ultimately it's going to be a good thing, because remember, you're being advised. Now, you will know the difference. We have to do this here. You will know the difference between your higher self and intuition versus your ego, because the ego will never feel like a full body yes. You'll know because your gut, remember, a full body yes, there's this wholeness, there's an integrity that happens between your mind, your heart, your values, what's important to you, and what the decision you're making. So getting into your gut, figuring out what is what, goes hand in hand with your intention to live from the inside out. So, however, divine discontent So let's just assume that you're being nudged. You just take a look to see if something needs to shift or change, if you feel authentic, true, and real. Is there something you need to do? Is there some tweaking that you need to add something or take something away? There is some resistance to this feeling because it almost always requires some kind of change, because the question here is, why does something, I mean, do things have to change? Why does everything always have to change? Can't it stay the same? Well, I think authentically the answer is yes, it does have to change. And no, things can't always stay the same. So, as spiritual beings on a spiritual journey of becoming in these earth suits, change is the name of the game, right? You were a newborn, you changed into a toddler. You're a toddler, you changed into a young adult. As a young adult, you changed into adult. You changed from not knowing this to knowing this. It's a constant path of evolution, of becoming. So, yes. But just look and trust that this tweaking, whatever it might be, will be yet another way of helping you to fulfill your soul's intentions, which were established before you got here. So, unfortunately or fortunately, it is not a linear or well-planned journey. It's like, do this, do this, do this, do this. Sometimes red lights become green lights. Sometimes green lights become red lights. Sometimes you don't know which is which. Sometimes you mistake the spirit for the ego. Sometimes you mistake the ego for the spirit. But no worries. Just simply, the task at hand is to meditate, contemplate, get out in nature, read uplifting things, pay attention, set intentions, so that you can move with ease and grace and elegance with the help of this superhero you that is within you. So it is not so easy to live a spiritual life of power, because it requires you to live in a way that most human beings don't live. You must be a spiritual superhero you. You must be the spiritual superhero you, to sing your song, to walk your own path, to dance to your own music, to fulfill your soul's destiny, to write your book, to write your play, to raise children. You must be the superhero you, to live from the inside out and not the outside in. The ego will lead you into despair. And if you don't think that's true, just keep going. The ego is about you losing, about the ego winning and you losing. The ego is about separation. The ego is about uh, uh, somebody being right and somebody being wrong. It will lead you into despair. And the spirit will lead you into fulfillment. And this doesn't mean that there won't be some despair along the way. This does not mean that every moment will be a happy moment. In fact, I assure you it will not. As far as I can tell, next week's topic is life has never been a piece of cake. At any rate, that's next week. So even though life won't always be free of despair and suffering, you won't be numb. You won't be fake. You won't be asleep. You won't be disconnected from your purpose or your meaning. You will feel real, honest, and true. There is a power, poise, and confidence that comes from living your life, going down the stream of well-being to wherever it takes you. Now, try not to make this too esoteric. It really is pretty simple. Just take a good look at your life the way that it is. Your work, your relationships, your money, your health. Does it check in? Does it feel good? If so, great. If it doesn't, then just go looking for green lights. Open. Dear universe, please send me green lights. Please send me indisputable signs that this is the way to go. I'm open to full body yeses. I'm wanting cosmic clunks. Don't be afraid to take a different road. It's okay to change your mind. It is natural to want to follow your bliss. So now listen, as always, every sharing moment of mine with you and with the world is dedicated to me and you living the most authentically powerful spiritual life that we can. And in some ways, this awakened life is much harder than sleepwalking through life. But even now, at 72 years young, I stand firm in these convictions. It is better to be awake and miserable than to be asleep and miserable. It's better for our joy and peaceful fulfillment to be conscious than to be unconscious. And in the end, when we are on our deathbeds, when we are getting ready for our next great adventure, it will feel better, it will be truer, and we will be further along our path than if we do it any other way. So I close this lesson with another quote by Matthew McConaughey, which is, "It's a matter of how we see the challenge in front of us and how we manage it. We persist, we pivot or concede. It's up to us. It's our choice every time." That I actually have another quote. He says, "All destruction eventually leads to construction. All death eventually leads to birth. All pain eventually leads to pleasure. In this life or the next, what goes down will come up." So and finally, this is my favorite. "In the fact of fate that death and birth bring, we will appear and disappear. We recognize that we are both human and God. We find the belief that our choices matter, that it is not all for nothing, that it is all for everything." Matthew McConaughey, thank you for Green Lights. So before I pray us out, next week, thank you very much, by the way, for being here. Next week is, or next time, I actually leave here this coming Thursday, and on my way back home to Florida, I stop in North Carolina for 4 or 5 days. So we'll resume our Sunday Night Alive when I get back to Florida on a regular basis live. But for now, whenever I find the muse that says record, the next time we'll do Life Has Never Been a Piece of Cake. I'm excited about it. It just emerged this morning in my meditations, so we'll do that. If you would like to donate to my ministry, if you would like to offer a love offering, if you get value, if you want to give back, I accept it. Of course, it's not required or expected, but if you feel so called, you can do that through PayPal, revdschubert@gmail.com, or on my website. You can also on my website see previous blogs and also some beautiful pictures I've taken of African animals. So that is our lesson for today. So please join me for one more quick moment as we end our time together. We end our time in thanksgiving and gratitude for the opportunity to remember that we are more than this, that we are surrounded by a power and a presence that is for us and never against us, that the entire universe is conspiring for our greater good, and that we have the capacity, the ability, and the responsibility to tune into this fact so that we can raise the consciousness of our own lives, thereby being better people, better human beings, better friends, better husbands, better wives, better children, better parents, and that we can do our part to ensure that this beautiful world we live in works for everyone. And so for the blessings being together today, I'm grateful. We let this be, and we let it be together by saying, and so it is. Amen. So amen. Thank you so much. I would like to see your face one more time. Yes. Peace and blessings. See you next time.